What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today we find ourselves in a very familiar situation. Those of us that have been in the home arcade hobby for, I guess, years at this point are very aware of all the different controversies that have plagued the hobby since it really started. Now we're talking specifically about Arcade 1-Up and some of the many issues that it's had over the years that we saw kind of, that they sort of improved and moved on from and then slipped back into. All the gates were represented. We had controller gate, we had game emulation gate, we had speaker gate, control panel overlay gate. I think that was the thing. But the biggest thing was absolutely, I think in my personal opinion, was Monitorgate. The fact that these monitors in the first generation, second generation cabinets were not the greatest. They weren't the best. They were the 5:4 aspect ratio. They were referred to as TN monitors. They had edge lighting or side lighting, which meant that when you looked at this thing off angle, the image would just completely wash out. It just wasn't the best way to go. But in Generation 3, we saw them move on from that and go with a brand called BOE, which gave us a much better monitor. Backlit and 4:3 aspect ratio. Definitely the proper and most preferred aspect ratio for arcade games, and we thought everything was fine. Until a little thing called COVID happened, and the pandemic, and supply chains, and everything just shutting down. It really left just, Arcade 1-Up, as well as many different manufacturers, with a big problem. Sourcing parts, trying to find the best stuff to kind of maintain quality, while still getting this out to their regular customers at a reasonable price and a reasonable time. We saw this with the Mortal Kombat 30th edition, 30th anniversary edition, and we saw this with the Pac-Mania cabinets specifically, among other cabinets, where they went from a BOE IPS quality monitor with a nice backlight, and they reverted back to that 5:4 edge-lit monitor that was just an absolute problem. And we were kind of concerned that this was going to be what we were stuck with moving forward. But luckily, we had people in the community that were helping us out on the XL cabinets, and then I kind of dug in and found some good 17-inch replacements that helped us with the Mortal Kombat 30th and the Pac-Mania, and those videos are on my channel. But why am I bringing this up again? Well, because we have a new player in the home arcade space. Basic Fun has already come out with their WrestleMania cabinet. It has had some issues, but I haven't heard that the monitor is a big issue as of yet. Maybe they just don't have enough of them out there. Maybe that there's been so many other concerns that the monitor was the least of their problems. But we do have our first sort of look, a sneak peek at the new Star Wars cabinet, the Return of the Jedi Star Wars cabinet that Basic Fun has coming out. Michael B. the Game Genie was given an early advanced review unit to take a look at, and immediately he noticed an issue. If you check out this post over on the Facebook group Basic Fun Arcade Classics Deals and Discussions, about an hour ago, he put up a post and he took a picture of the back of the monitor, and he was a little bit concerned. And he asked the question, this is the monitor on the Basic Fun Star Wars. Anybody familiar? Because he wasn't really familiar with that particular model number. But it immediately kind of threw up a red flag for me, because I thought that was another TN style monitor or type of monitor that was associated with the Mortal Kombat 30th anniversary edition. And we know that if that's the case, well, that's definitely going to be a problem. Now, just for your reference, I'm going to bring up an image right now. This is from my Pac-Mania monitor swap video, where I do a close-up of the actual monitor that came in the Pac-Mania cabinet and the monitor that came in my Mortal Kombat 30th. And you can see that part number is going to start with an M, and the actual company that produces that is AU Optronics. And you can see TN right there in the model number, so that's where we all refer to these things as TN monitors. Check out this image right now. I pulled this from a Reddit post from 3 years ago, and it lists the exact same make and model. So the manufacturing company is Lightstar, just like the image that Michael B threw up, and the actual part number itself, or the model number itself, is the same model number. Now, this is definitely a cause for concern, especially since no one else has really had an opportunity to review this cabinet or see this cabinet. All we have as a point of reference is the WrestleMania cabinet. So is this going to be an outlier? Is this going to be something different than all the cabinets moving forward? Or is this now the new standard? Not exactly sure. But the fact remains that this is at least, the very least, in this review unit, which appears to have all the stock packaging and everything that you're going to receive if you choose to get the Star Wars cabinet. The reason this is another reason why this is such a big deal is because it's a Star Wars cabinet. Everybody's going to want the Star Wars cabinet because unless you kept your original Arcade 1-Up or maybe that second edition of the Star Wars cabinet that Arcade 1-Up did, you're kind of out of luck if you want some Star Wars cabinets right now. If you want some Star Wars goodness, some Star Wars Atari arcade action, you're just not going to be able to find it right now. Everyone is patiently awaiting this basic fun. So if you see this monitor and you see this problem, and now we're making a direct comparison with those old TN monitors that came on certain cabinets, and you didn't like those from Arcade 1-Up, all is lost. Not necessarily. I am here to help, because if we can assume that this is going to be the same monitor that came in some Mortal Kombat 30th editions, then I already have videos out there showing you exactly what to do and how to swap this over, and more importantly, a suitable replacement monitor. So let's take a quick look at some of the comparisons that I did in a video right now. All right, so I have before you 3 monitors that I believe represent all the major phases, the major changes that Arcade 1-Up cabinets have gone through as far as the 17-inch models are concerned. Starting over here on the left, you have the Rampage, the first generation monitor over here. This is a 3rd generation BOE out of an X-Men versus Street Fighter cabinet. And then over here all the way to the right is going to be that stock MK30th LCD panel that I just pulled out of my cabinet. I'm so glad I did, because that new monitor is awesome. But the question always comes up, can I swap this for that? Can I move this over there? Can I put a BOE in my MK30th? All right, it's not going to be that simple. Let's start with the oldest, the dinosaur over here, the oldest monitor, and this is going to be it, your Rampage. You're going to notice the backlighting is going to be different on this. We talked about this in the actual monitor replacement of the MK30th. These are going to be CCFLs, the cold cathode fluorescent light bulbs basically are going to be lighting this monitor. And you can tell by the connector type and the thickness. The overall thickness of this monitor is really, it's pretty thick. You're talking about a thickness, get my tape measure, of about, at its fattest point, almost 3/4 of an inch. It's pretty thick. It's got some weight to it. When you compare that to the BOE, a much thinner panel. Obviously, we have a different backlighting method. You're talking about 3/8 of an inch, so a much thinner panel. As far as cable connections, you're always going to have, no matter what model, you're going to have these 2 connections, right? You're going to have your LVDS and the ground cable, and you're going to have these 3 wires that are just power, that power the backlight. So no matter if it's the 1st generation, the 3rd generation, or even the MK30th, I guess that would be the 4th generation? Yeah, you're going to have these same connectors so that they can keep reusing the same PCBs. It's going to be the board that's going to be the difference maker. You can see the difference. This is a much more populated board because it's powering an LED backlight, which I believe is a complete LED panel behind the LCD. So that's why you get the good even lighting on the BOE versus the CCFLs over here, where you've got a pretty sparse PCB, but it's really just breaking down the power, powering these light bulbs, top and bottom, that are shining down. Now, I think the reason why you're noticing a difference between the 1st generation and the 3rd generation is because we have 2 light bulbs, top and bottom, shining down. That's my theory. I haven't decased this completely. I haven't gotten into the actual panel. I don't want to go that far because I want to reuse this, but that's my theory. That's my thought. Over here, you're going to have, like I said, I think an LED, complete LED backlight. The entire panel is backlit with LEDs. But because this connector is here on this side with the MK30th, I think what you may have, and the reason why we're having some major viewing angle issues, is edge lighting with LEDs. So much cheaper panel. You don't have a big panel full of LEDs like we should have over here. It's just going to be on one side shining from one direction, which is why your viewing angles are crazy when you go from left to right or right to left. You'll see that big difference. Now you're talking about overall size differences. We know about the thickness between Gen 1 and Gen 3. Gen 3 and Gen 4 are pretty same, almost identical as far as thickness is concerned. But because we have 5.4, 5.4, and 4.3, the difference is going to come in the height. Now they're all about the same width, about 14 inches, but the height is going to be different, about 11 and 5/8 versus about 11 and 3/8. So a big difference there as far as the height. Now everybody keeps asking the question, can I just swap monitors, right? Can I take my BOE and put it in my MK30th? Can I take my BOE and put it in my 1st gen cabinet? Well, you can, and it really is, for the most part, going to be plug and play. We know when it comes to the connections, it's going to be the same. That's not going to be an issue. Just make sure you maintain these boards. Also, when you look at the casings themselves, the actual mounts for the monitors, no matter whether you have a 4.3, this X-Men vs. Street Fighter over here, or a 5.4, they are exactly the same. I'm going to provide an insert shot here that's going to show that there's an actual gap when you put this BOE monitor inside this casing. There's a gap top and bottom. So this should line up. You can see the holes are almost identical. This 4.3 monitor should line up perfectly with the monitor mount inside your 5.4 cabinet. So that's not going to be a problem. Now we know the connections are not going to be the problem. The problem is going to be the missing lines, okay? 5.4 is going to have 64 extra lines on the bottom. So if you put this 4.3 monitor in, you're going to have a much brighter, a better monitor, but you're going to be missing some of the detail on the bottom. Is that going to be a problem for you? You have to be the judge of that. I wouldn't like it. I would rather have the entire screen just so I can see all the action. So there you have it. That's the basic low down and dirty of what can be done as far as swapping between generations. These cables are going to be the same connecting to this. I'm not sure what this connection type is called, but it should be the same between all three monitors, but that really shouldn't be an issue as long as you have this and you're just reusing another PCB. Maintain these two connections and you should be good to go. It's just going to be a matter of the aspect ratio being the big kicker. I wish that these were all the same aspect ratio and this wouldn't be a problem. You could just swap monitors out and it would be no big deal. So I wanted to take the time to lay this out for you so that you could just sort of take a look at it, assess the risk, and make your own decisions. Okay, so with the monitor review out of the way, what does this mean for you moving forward? Well, it's kind of exactly what we were talking about 3 years ago. If you want this cabinet and you're really bummed about the monitor, you do have options, ways to fix it, ways to make it a really, really nice cabinet. And some of these monitors are going to last probably longer than the one that came in the cabinet because it is a better quality. But who wants to pay top dollar for a cabinet and then pay another $100 to have to rip it all open to swap out the monitor? It's a question that you have to answer for yourself. I'm not here to tell you to buy the cabinet or to not buy the cabinet, but I am here to give you all the information possible so that if these are the monitors we're just stuck with these basic fun cabinets, and you want to buy some, well, guess what? You absolutely have options. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, guys. I wanted to get this information back together in a current video so that it's easier for you to kind of reference with what's really going on today. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. You have a blessed day, and I will see all of you next time. Here we are. Monitorgate. Monitorgate 2.0.